Hi, welcome to Dram Talk. I'm Brad.
And I'm Daniel, and today we are joined by a very special guest, Whiskey in Isolation. Now, many of you
Hey
may be
guys.
familiar with Whiskey in Isolation on Instagram, but I believe his real life human name is Justin. So, welcome, Justin.
Yeah, no, hi guys. No, everyone calls me Whiskey in Isolation.
Good.
No, they don't. No, they don't really.
No, I'm glad we
Well,
labeled
I'm
that.
going to now. Okay, so this is going to be like a new kind of episode for us. Not only are we joined by our very first active member of the whiskey community on the podcast here, but we are all recording over Zoom, so we're all in separate locations. So we'll be enjoying two drams tonight. We'll have a chat with Justin, get to know a little bit about him and what he does in the world of whiskey, and we'll give brief tasting notes and of course our dram in words. So let's get on to learning a little bit more about you, Justin. So tell us a bit about yourself, like background, where you're from, what got you into whiskey.
I obviously won't go into too much detail because otherwise, like everyone will like tune out after like kind of 2 minutes. But I'm originally from the UK, but I've been now in Australia for 10 years. Like any good immigration story, it's kind of started with a woman. So so I moved over with my girlfriend, and we're all now fully settled in Melbourne with a 7-year-old, and I would like to say kind of having a kid probably started me drinking whiskey, but that kind of but to be honest, like there isn't any particularly exciting story about it other than I'm kind of a big traveler. Yeah. And like kind of really enjoying whatever country it is that I happen to be staying in, living in, or whatever. And we did a trip to Tasmania, and the family wanted to go off and do the Salamanca markets in Hobart. And I was going, I ain't traipsing around the markets doing shopping for the next few hours. I want to do something else. And I'd been recommended to go on the Lark Distillery tour. Now, like I've obviously drunk quite a bit of whiskey in my time, but just kind of casually, not really thinking too much about it. And I went on the tour, and it was me. I was solo, obviously, but the rest of the group that were there was like groups of 3 or 4. There was like couples and whatever. And I guess what I kind of found very early on was the real kind of community and camaraderie that kind of the whiskey. I don't know if it's universal because like I've only really got it into it in Australia, but the whiskey community in Australia, like how kind of tight knit it was, and like I wasn't like sat on my own in the back of the bus or in the corner of the tour, kind of going, oh, Norman no mates who just kind of got a alcohol problem, and is coming for like the 10 a.m. drams and has got no friends. It was very inclusive, and everyone, like what you guys are doing, everyone wanted to know kind of why you're here. Have you had have you drunk much whiskey before, and weren't caring that I was kind of Mr. like newbie to it. They were kind of excited that I was a newbie. And so obviously we had great whiskey and it was a great experience or whatever, but it was just the enthusiasm of everybody there that kind of got me intrigued and excited to learn a little bit more. So that was really my first experience of whiskey that I kind of thought, actually maybe I'll look at this a little bit more seriously. But then it's COVID.
Yeah,
that
COVID.
Horrible word that we don't really want to mention anymore. Yeah. That kind of has really kick-started the kind of serious love and serious exploration.
Yeah, because I know for myself and Daniel that a big reason for us jumping into whiskey, but predominantly Scotch, is our visits to Scotland. So for me, I'd gone through and I'd done a tour through to Madden, and that really was what kickstarted my journey anyway into the world of whiskey. So I have that to thank, and I had a really great tour guide who was just feeding me dram after dram. So it was just almost love at first sight from then.
Yeah, my one's pretty similar. I was traveling 18-year-old, so fresh young adult. Was heading with some friends around Scotland, and they were a little bit older, and one of them was super into whiskey. So he's taken me to a few of them and visited different places like Strathyla, Glenmorangie. But that wasn't until we got to Talisker that I was like, oh, this is something else. This is something special. And I guess that's what started me down the smoky PT road. Because
it's quite interesting, that you guys have had your experience in the UK.
Yeah.
I'm UK born and bred, and I've not been to one single distillery in the UK.
Yeah, that's
it's like the thing, like you don't visit what's in your own backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to go back and do like once travel's allowed and go back and do a proper tour. So,
I mean, Tomatin was pretty good. I just want to go back so I can go to Isla, get straight on that sweet peat train.
I mean, in all fairness as well, I haven't been to any distilleries in Australia though.
Yeah, neither.
See, there you go. You can tell me more about distilleries in Scotland than I can do the same here. So.
Yeah, it's just vice versa.
The benefits of immigration, just bringing people together.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, and for us anyway, we know you mainly from Instagram. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about Whisky in Isolation. When did it start? How did it start? And why, really?
Yeah. So as I said, it was literally a COVID initiative where, to save the family kind of killing each other. It was like, let's have a hobby. Alcoholism was probably not like a hobby that was kind of sensible to kind of get into.
Yeah.
But it was like how do I kind of expand on the passion for whiskey, but encapsulating some of the other things that I love to do, and writing is kind of a big thing for me. So my background is in marketing and PR, so kind of writing and promoting whatever, that's kind of always been in my in my blood. Love kind of taking photos and just kind of mucking around with sort of camera, but also it was kind of, I just thought it was a good way to kind of learn. So because I jumped onto Instagram before I even started to set up the account, probably in terms of myself posting, and just followed a whole heap of people and got to learn quite a sort of few things. I thought, okay, this is like a kind of a fun medium to kind of really take my journey to the next level, where I can learn from others, kind of share my own sort of thoughts, but then kind of get the writing and creative side of things happening as well. So I guess that was April. It was April that I think my first post was. So we're coming up for my anniversary. And,
1 year birthday.
Yeah, look, it's and it's been good, and it's never been about follower numbers or anything like that. I've seen some people, you can easily kind of do a post about Macallan or whatever, do hashtag Macallan or whatever, and you kind of get hundreds of likes, or you can kind of dress sexily or whatever, whether you're male or female, get lots of likes. That it wasn't about that, for me. It was definitely about learning from others, but then finding my own niche. And I know you're kind of going to talk a little bit later about kind of Australian sort of whiskey, and that's kind of where my niche has fallen into. And I guess why that has happened is just I'm very grateful in general for the opportunities that Australia kind of gave me 10 years ago, in terms of giving me a career when the GFC had kind of hit. And so I'm always a great supporter of local and kind of where I am and people that have kind of given me those chances and opportunities. So always behind Australia.
Oh,
fantastic.
Awesome. As are we.
Good to hear.
Just hope none of my compatriots back in the UK hear this.
I'm pretty sure we don't have any UK listeners.
What, 2 or 3 listeners in the UK?
Thank you guys for listening, though. We do appreciate it. Yeah, so like, I mean, you did speak a little bit about what you were doing through Instagram as Whiskey in Isolation, but like, how have you gone beyond that? Like, in what ways are you interacting with the community? Like, are there other platforms you're using, especially
Well,
during
as I
the
said, like
lockdown
the
period?
best thing about like kind of the whiskey community is that word is the community side of things. I do enough like social media in my work life,
Right.
like doing anything beyond kind of the Instagram account for like Whiskey in Isolation would be a bit too much. Like, don't get me wrong, I've got a personal Facebook account and I follow all those kind of Whiskey Lovers Australia and whatever. But really kind of the big thing for me in terms of the community engagement is like it's the face-to-face stuff, like where I can. So out of the Whiskey in Isolation sort of page, there's kind of a network of Melburnians that are pretty sort of close together, who like organise drinks and catch ups. And I'm in the northern suburbs of Melbourne, and there's actually like a whole heap of us in the northern suburbs. And so there's a little group of us called Whiskey Lords of the North, and we kind of have a regular monthly catch up where we just kind of rotate whoever hosts, and there's like kind of a different theme like each month. Like we did a Scotch theme, we did a blind tasting theme, we did a bottle kill theme. So all those sort of little kind of experiential things where we kind of share ideas and thoughts, and then there's just going to bars, like the bars that, again, sort of Melbourne's got, we're blessed with some amazing whiskey bars with very, very knowledgeable, I don't know, do we still call them bartenders, bar people? Anyway, but the people who run the bars, who are exceptionally knowledgeable and keen to kind of share their thoughts. And then I just like speak to as many people within like the whiskey community, so relationships with distilleries, with cask brokers, with other consumers. A chat with someone, Dan Murphy's next to me, who might be kind of not too sure what whiskey to choose. I like having conversations.
Yeah, and we're the same. I know I've done that a couple of times at Dan's, when you're just kind of standing there in front of the wall of whiskey, and you can see someone a little bit unsure where to go, and then you just have a quick chat about whereabouts their tastes lie, and whether or not you could maybe point them in the right direction or not.
Or whether they end up pointing you in a new direction. Like, you never know where the advice is going to come from.
Absolutely, because definitely, with this group, Whiskey Lords of the North, I'm absolutely the newbie and the one with the least knowledge and experience, and not that it's about kind of anybody kind of looking up to people or looking down or whatever, but we're all at kind of different stages of our journeys. And even the guys who are like really experienced, they still might, they might be experienced in a particular area and not say, done much in single grain or in Australian whiskey, where I've kind of been, drinking a bit. So yeah, it's just that, exchange of knowledge and ideas. It's great.
Yeah, of course.
Fantastic.
And I mean, just going off of that short little chat about Dan's, how do you choose what bottles to buy? I know this is something that Daniel and I have mentioned quite a few times on the pod, where it's like walking in and just feeling sometimes that you just don't know where to go, or you just want to leave with a basket full of whiskey and you just can't. And even then, it's just, do you primarily stick to subscription services, or do you even track down unique or hard to buy bottles?
Look, it's been a real mix, and I think I belong to quite a few subscription services, and like maybe I haven't kind of joined them necessarily in the right order that I think maybe would have kind of benefited my journey the most. But like people like listening in Australia, I would definitely say Whiskey Loot is a great place to start if you've like never had whiskey in your life.
Yeah,
it's like you can kind of travel around like different regions or whatever, very quickly with just samples and kind of get a feel for what you like and don't like. But I tell you what, but Whiskey Luke have opened my eyes to some new frontiers that I didn't know about. But Milk and Honey, the Israeli distillery, is that was definitely a new one on me, and kind of definitely opened my eyes to a very, very different style of whiskey. Although all that kind of like sort of harks back to sort of some familiar flavors. It's kind of always nice to jump on a country where you just you don't necessarily, or you wouldn't necessarily associate whiskey production with. I think the challenge for me was I actually came into Whiskey Loot a little bit sort of later, where I'd kind of got a feel for my palate and my taste. And so a lot of the stuff in Whiskey Loot is kind of the entry level whiskies to those kind of particular distilleries or brands, and that's absolutely right. and that's not putting Whiskey Loot down at all. I think it's a brilliant service, but I guess what I'm saying is that for me would have been probably the ideal place for me to start, and I kind of almost wish that where I had started. So I would definitely encourage people, if they're kind of thinking, oh, maybe I'll get into whiskey, that the Whiskey Loot is a great place to start. The other clubs that I'm part of, so I'm part of the Whiskey Club, which I'm sure you guys are aware of, given you've got the Glen, Scotia. I recently joined the Scotch Malt Whisky Society as well. A member of the Distillers Collection, which specialises in Tasmanian whiskey. But then it's as we said, it's recommendations from like others. Like I've kind of got to the stage where I've got good idea about what I like and what I don't, and I kind of trust the community out there that they'll kind of steer you in the right direction. And you asked about tracking rare and unique bottles down. Look, I absolutely love rare stuff, but I guess it's all a question of budget, isn't it? And
it is.
I'm big on drinking, and I have zero interest in flipping. I get why people flip, but I personally don't like it, and especially as a Sullivan's Cove fan, for example, where it's impossible to get hold of a Sullivan's Cove because of like sort of the the flippers who kind of corner it. I'm all about kind of drinking my whiskey, but recommendations is such a great way of doing things, and that's another way how Instagram has been a really, really good vehicle for me for learning about new whiskies, because you follow certain people and you kind of know what their palate's like, and you can kind of align with their own tastes, which is why in essence I've tried to focus on Australian sort of whiskey. So it's nice when a lot of people kind of come to me and go, cool, really want to try some Australian whiskey, what do you recommend for this price point or this style, because I kind of know that that's kind of the little niche that I'm sort of playing in.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. I was like, I know we've had some very passionate discussions about this, buying bottles for drinking and not collecting. Like, they're made to be drunk.
Yeah,
well,
100%.
Well, absolutely. If you imagine the hard work that and the length of process that kind of goes into making a whiskey, to then just have it like sat on the shelf. I get it. Don't get me wrong. I do get it, but like I want to taste that juice.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
No, we're the same. We're the same. I couldn't just look at it on the shelf and just walk past it every day and think, I wonder what that tastes like. No, I want to know what that tastes like.
I don't have like the world's biggest collection. I'm at about say 65 bottles or whatever at the moment. But like I've gone through a period over the last couple of weeks where I said, I've got a bottle kill before I open another bottle. Got to kind of start culling or whatever. But my problem is, like, I see like a new bottle and I bought it for a reason. I'm kind of going, wonder if it's any good. I wonder how good it is, and I just want to crack it.
Right. Do you want to maybe get into our first dram? before we jump on to the rest of the questions?
Yeah, might as well, because I've nearly finished my first pour.
Oh, okay. Let's just get into it.
Likewise.
Right. So we are drinking the Glen Scotia Caribbean Rum Cask Finish.
Now, for any ardent listeners, you may know we have done this dram in a brief episode we did a little while back, but any excuse to crack open this one again.
And I did actually kind of flick past your episodes, and I kind of did see that you'd done it, and I almost did say, "Oh, do you want to drink something else?" Seeing as I did have all the other whiskies that you that you suggested, but I'm more than happy with this one, and hopefully we'll come up with some different tasting notes, eh?
Yeah, no, this one was really superb.
Yeah, well, I've had a lot of firsts over the last 12 months, and this was my first Glen Scotia, but I guess it appealed to me because like I really like the Balvenie Caribbean rums. I kind of thought, like to kind of see this one as a comparison and see how it kind of matches up, and at least for my mind as a Caribbean rum cask, they happily sit toe to toe.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts and impressions of this one? Like,
well, like I would never, it's not the most complex of whiskies, but it's one of the most Moorish whiskies. Like I've had it's well, as I said, I'm already on the second dram, and we've only been talking for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But I've reviewed this one as well, and to me it was absolutely liquid Bounty Bar.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I definitely get the chocolate notes as well, and same as the coconut. And what I love is it's just so fruity that I don't know, everything blends so well together.
And it's like a lighter, fresher one, so I found it was really appropriate to come in December, like Australian summer. It was just perfect for the weather.
Yeah. And I don't know if my brain sometimes kind of wants to smell certain things just to kind of sort of evoke that very kind of obvious kind of connection, but on the nose, it does smell like very saucy as well. So I kind of get a little bit of kind of Caribbean sea air. That's kind of what I imagine. I kind of imagine sitting on a tropical island and kind of the wind carrying the salty sea air and just kind of just kicking back. It's part liquid Bounty, part kind of like a whiskey version of Pina Colada. So
yeah, I think that aligns quite well with our experiences with this one. I'm pretty sure my last dram in words for this was I was kicking back in a hammock on a tropical island, just sipping out of a coconut. Well,
I don't want to cheat because I did kind of think about this, given you asked me to think about it, and I wrote down, I feel like Johnny Depp washed up on a beach being licked by parrots. So.
Oh, that's good. That's funny because I remember I think my first dram in words was I was on a pirate ship just in a cask and I'd been washed away onto the shore and it's broken open and I've landed on the beach and I found Daniel in the hammock.
Welcome to the party.
Yeah, and just as Daniel mentioned, it was so I felt as well. It was just so appropriate coming in December. It was almost like the perfect summer dram.
Yeah, for sure. So I haven't actually had it now for maybe 2 months. So kind of going back to it, it is as I remember, where you don't drink it and kind of go, oh look, I've noticed something really, really different from the last time I drank it, or now that we're down to the last third of the bottle, it's kind of changed in profile or whatever. It's as I said at the top, it's not overly complex, but it's so damn easy to drink.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you're right, it is very Moorish. I always dread coming to the end of the glass. I'm like, should I pour another one? I don't know.
Yeah. It's just, it was just top quality stuff. And that's what I loved as well. It's so easy to drink. And then every time you reach for it, you can always, like Daniel said, you just, do I pour another one? Do I pour another one? And I mean, and the fact that there is still more available, probably should pour another one.
Yeah, you might as well. It'd be rude not to. It's not going to drink itself.
Exactly.
And I mean, even for Daniel and myself, we went to a Whiskey Club event for Westwood, and Daniel had won.
Damn, how did you get to that?
Yeah, Daniel won I guess a ticket for the event, and he got to take it somewhere.
Okay, and end of the interview, because like I'm very, very jealous. I'm a massive Westwood fan.
And well, while we were there, we were talking with one of the Whiskey Club guys, and he told us that one of the forklift drivers had knocked over a whole pallet of the Glen Scotia. So they broke like what, a couple hundred bottles?
Pallet's worth of Glen Scotia bottles.
Yeah. So that's why it's even more surprising for us, where it's like, how is this still available if you guys broke a pallet? It's just, it just boggles the mind.
We were speechless.
Yeah, we were speechless. We were just like, man, that's just insane. And we were just thinking, mate, should have signed us up, gave us a call, would have come, happily licked it off the floor for you.
Yeah.
We have no waste policy here at Dram Talk.
Yeah. But that Westwood event, it really gave me some really big FOMO on not adding in that cask strength Pinot Noir finish. That was something else.
Well, I'm gonna be controversial when it comes to the Westwood. So, like, I'm a massive Westwood fan. I'm a massive Miles Monroe fanboy. You know, I've got him on speed dial and whatever. Look, I've got to give the cask strength a little more time, and I'm going to give it a few more goes. But of all the Westwoods I've had, despite to the contrary, everyone kind of saying, oh, it's one of the best things they've done. For me, it's just about the least favorite. So like I've got their so like obviously Whiskey Club did a first edition Pinot Noir, which I had, just the normal 48 or whatever percent it was. I got the second edition that was like limited to 60 bottles here, which is bloody amazing.
Yeah,
they've got they got a 2 grain one which is amazing, which tastes like kind of Nutella and kind of mint and whatever. And the Oregon Stout cask, which is absolutely amazing. You can go and get hold of that. And the new one, which again is my one that's sat on my shelf. I'm going, got to open it. I want to open it. No, you got to leave it. You got to leave it till the bottle kill. Is their sourdough whiskey. So they're as far as we know, they're the first two in the world to do a sourdough whiskey. So I'm really super intrigued to see how that's turned out.
Yeah, that's
sort of consolation to make Brad not feel bad about missing out on the.
I know. I feel
strength.
I feel a little better now. So thanks for that.
Yeah. But if you want some more, as I said, I've got a whole load, so I'll send you a sample, mate. Anyway.
Oh, mate, I'm gonna have to trade you. Send you some Oban 21.
Sounds good to me.
And I mean, we have gone over our German words, albeit briefly. I mean, so leaving the high seas, leaving the Caribbean, as you mentioned before, being a strong supporter of local distilleries here in Oz, are there any that are standing out to you at the moment, or even anything that's just rising to the top, or you feel maybe deserve a bit more attention? Yeah,
so like put to one side, the Sullivan's Coves and the likes, whatever. Only because they've made their mark and they've made their mark deservedly so.
Yeah.
I'm a big supporter now of the little guys, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but also the guys who are newer on the journey or don't have the big kind of bucks financial sort of backing wise, and it's hard to like kind of single out distilleries without kind of like not naming everybody, but I will anyway. And look, I'm a big fan of the guys at Backwards. So Lee and Bree Atwood, I think, are doing some really interesting things up there in Yakandanda, and not least because they're doing obviously single malt whiskey, but also rye whiskey, which I think Australia's starting to do pretty well, and I guess like kind of just by extension on the rye front, So obviously, we got Archie Rose as kind of the big boys, but Gospel here in Melbourne and doing some interesting things. And there's a real new kid on the block that I would get you guys to keep an eye on, which is called Statecraft. So he's put out, or they put out their first release at the end of last year. I know they've got some other stuff in the works that I'm sworn to secrecy at the moment, but there's some interesting stuff coming from there. I definitely recommend people to check out Craftworks. So Crafty, as he's known, Craig, is probably, I would arguably say, is the best whiskey storyteller in Australia. Actually, hands down in Australia that I've heard. If you can kind of go to an event or tune into a tasting that he's part of, he has some really interesting stories to tell that just to me just encapsulates the passion that he has. And I know you guys are going to ask me a little bit about some of the independent sort of bottling stuff. So I'll talk about the distilleries that I'm working with there. That obviously I'm collaborating with them for a good reason, but from an independent bottling perspective, the guys at Heartwood and Brett at Spirit Thief are doing some amazing things. Again from the what's known as, I guess, gypsy distilling, where you kind of partner with the distilleries. They're both doing some really interesting things again, which again supporting the Australian industry. So I think the future's very, very bright for the Australian whiskey industry, personally.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know with Craftworks, Daniel and I the other day, we were just talking about trying to get a bottle of Lagercat, just because we love Lagavulin so much, and just the idea that you'd reuse a Lagavulin cask, that was just so amazing to me. I was just like, oh, that's so ingenious. That's just, it just has me craving and searching for that bottle.
Yeah, no, and he's a great guy as well. He's a great guy. So search him out here, and he'd be a great one to have on your podcast for sure.
Oh, definitely, we definitely search him out. And as you mentioned before, just those independent bottling projects. Any chance we get a little sneak peek of what's to come?
Absolutely. So, I mean, there are four projects at the moment. Three that are out. Well, they're not out there in terms of the whiskey won't be ready until the end of next year. But I've got a project with Hobart Whisky, obviously from Tasmania, which is Jack Daniel's Select Cask.
Oh,
so that's one of three that they got in. So it'll be very limited. They had they got in a couple of 20-litre casks. So this is just one of 3 20-litre casks. So there's So that will be pretty good fun. The rum side of things, which was I guess my cunning segue why I chose the Glen Scotia, is because I've got a rum cask with Old Kempton Distillery again in Tasmania. This is going to be their first ever rum cask. So it's
awesome.
So it's Beanley rum, which is in Queensland, but out of Buffalo Trace. So Beanley kind of got the Buffalo Trace bourbon barrel to do their rum, and then that cask has now come to us in Tasmania.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm pretty excited about that one. That one should be pretty cool. And then the biggest barrel that I can tell you about is one with Spring Bay, again Tasmania. So you're seeing a theme here. Albeit, just for the record, I would love to be collaborating with some Victorian, New South Wales, Queensland distilleries. It's just at the moment the way some distilleries are set up, because of their outturn, they need to kind of keep the whiskey for themselves, whereas in Tasmania there's a little bit more potential for them to kind of do these sort of projects. But the one with Spring Bay is is the last, as far as we're aware anyway, the last 50-year-old Paratawny cask from Seppelsfield, which is a winery in the Barossa Valley. So, like, 50-year-old, it should be big in your face kind of Christmas cake style whiskey. I have just purchased a 115 litre cask, but it's just like a little bit early to kind of tell you about that one. But I guess just if you don't mind me kind of carrying on talking.
Oh, no, go for it.
Got a bit of verbal diarrhea here, but like kind of, but I guess like the thing with the indie bottling is, look, I'm trying to lay down 6 to 9 casks over the next 2 to 3 years, and they're all small format because, as we all know, it's not a cheap thing to do.
Yeah.
So initially, it's a passion, like side hustle, for want of a better word, to see like how it transpires. Like, the people like the whiskey that we kind of put out, and if it kind of goes well, sure, we'll look to scale up. The biggest thing for me is that we're not, but at least at the moment, we're not buying other people's whiskey and just kind of going, cool, we'll choose that cask and put it out.
Yeah.
All of these are like projects where we're trying to do firsts, or like do something a bit different, or push the boundaries. And the first doesn't mean, it's never been done in the whiskey world, but like, the rum cask, for example, with Old Kempton Distillery, they've never done a rum cask. And I said, have you ever thought of doing one? I reckon your new mate would kind of go well with it. And they kind of agreed and said, yeah, let's kind of give it a crack. So the model really is to try and give the vehicle to the distilleries to do something a little bit different that they maybe wouldn't do within their core. And I'm happy to kind of take the risk and the punt and put the money towards it. So yeah, we'll see how we go. But again, we were talking about going back to that whole theme of community, and I mentioned Spirit Thief earlier. It was great. I did a Spirit Thief virtual tasting a couple of weeks ago, and Brett Steele, I was kind of like pumping him for for information and asking questions, and like he found out that I was trying to do these little projects, and he basically said, oh, if you need me to mentor you, or if you kind of got some ideas or questions or whatever, just pick up the phone and I'll help you out. And that's just typical of the whiskey industry here. Like, no one's kind of thinking, oh, you're a competitor or whatever. Everyone just like kind of works together to help each other out and just kind of hopefully produce great whiskey.
That's awesome, because I know that definitely, before we go on like further on into this question and dig a little deeper, I know that's a little further down the line for Daniel and myself, where we'd like to get into that process of putting something out there as well, just because we're so interested in it as well. Yeah. So just asking as well, like, how does one even get involved or start in independent bottling?
I don't even know there's like a the perfect answer to that, because like I didn't create a business plan. There was an opportunity to buy a private cask at Hobart Whisky, and I just kind of jumped and did it without kind of knowing much. And then I kind of thought, actually, wouldn't it be fun to kind of do like a whole series of these? And so just started doing a little bit more research in terms of the costs of storage, the cost of tax, thinking about like labeling and bottling and all that stuff. And it's and registering for your liquor license and all that kind of stuff. And none of that I've done yet. So like I don't have a liquor license yet, but like I've been speaking to the Victorian liquor license, and they're kind of going, oh no, until you're ready to sell, or if you're not promoting it on a website, you can do it whenever. So it's kind of been by kind of just feeling my way. Yeah, you need a bit of money, and like even doing the small format casks, you don't get a great return on it. But given where we are with interest rates, you definitely get a better return than leaving the money in the bank. It's, I've kind of gone into this very realistic, and it's like, one, it's like, will it be a good learning process? Two, will I have whiskey at the end of it? Three, can I break even? Break even will be fine, because when you think about it, the absolute worst that can happen is that you'll have a lot of whiskey to drink.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing.
There'd be no complaints on our end.
I know, even when we were considering and trying to weigh up when we should try and venture into that, we were thinking, well, the worst case scenario, we just have a whole cask to drink. Is that really that bad?
Yeah.
There are worse things in life.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think sometimes we can overthink things, and I think, like, I don't want to use the dreaded C word again, which is COVID. That is not anything.
Yeah.
But like, if like that's taught me anything, it's like you just have to do. Sometimes you just have to do things and worry about like the outcome of kind of down the line. Just take the bull by the horns. Do what kind of excites you. Gets your juices flowing and you enjoy. And and if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. But just grab it by the horns and do it.
Oh yeah, 100%. And like we said, if
I'm
not,
saying do it, guys. Get a card.
We're definitely looking.
Where's my wallet? Take my money now.
Yeah, and I mean, like we said before, worst case scenario, you got a whole cask to drink, or even better, you got a whole cask to share.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now, I guess before we get into like the last couple of questions here, let's go on to our, I guess, second drink of the evening, which I guess going in with the theme of whiskey in isolation. This is, I guess, our dram in isolation, or your isolation dram, one that you couldn't go without, or one.
If you were going into lockdown or
isolation
isolation tomorrow, what bottle would you be grabbing to take in with you?
And can I say, this was the worst question you could have asked. This was like saying to me, you can only take your wife or your daughter with you to like, a desert island. Which one would it be?
Whiskey.
It's impossible to almost to choose. And so what I wanted to know was, is it like a whole distillery range? Is it can I have like a whiskey type, or is it like literally one like bottle that like I like have forever?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because I was thinking about it and it was like, I was working from home for like 6 months last year. And basically that weekend before I started to work from home, I went to the bottle shop and bought a bottle of Talisker 10. So like that has stuck in my mind as my like isolation dram, because it's the one I had went out to buy. I've bottle killed that ages ago, because, this was March last year that we went into lockdown. So I do have my Talisker Storm here, which was, I guess, my choice just because I had associated the Talisker with that. Yeah. So I guess in that sense, I've got the range. I've got my Storm, I've got the 18, I've got the 15 from the 2019 releases.
But I guess it's still kind of got me thinking, because I was thinking, if I'm like in isolation, what am I going to be able to sort of cope with? Because like, I'm loving cask strength at the moment, which is why I've kind of like, people can't see this. I don't know why I was about to show you the bottle on a podcast, but I'm loving like Overeem cask strength, and again going back to Spirit Thief. So like they've got a collaboration with Adams Distillery, which again it's like 60% and they're phenomenal whiskeys. But I was kind of thinking, drinking that every day would be like really, really hard. As much as I love them. I then like kind of brought out a Sullivan's Cove double cask. The only reason the double cask, because it's like a little bit more affordable, and the only ones that I can kind of ever have a chance of getting hold of. But again, I was kind of thinking, it's still pretty high price point that I'd be kind of relying on, kind of like big expenditure to kind of be in isolation. I'd go broke pretty quickly. but I was thinking, but at least it's kind of Australian.
Yeah.
Because I was then going, oh, well, like a real kind of great one, going back to Westwood was, that I love, Westwood. And I was thinking, shit, well, that's kind of, excuse my language, it's, that's going against the whiskey in isolation brand by like not going with an Australian whiskey. So like I'm in a total sort of quandary, but like with the risk of kind of this kind of decision making process going on for like the next half an hour. I guess what I've ended up, because I've got all the bottles next to me, so I could make this kind of decision while we were sort of chatting. And I guess it's got to be something that is an easy drinker and it's kind of no fuss. So something similar to the Glen Scotia. So even though it goes against the whiskey in isolation brand, I'm going with the Arran 10.
Oh,
nice.
That's nice. I know recently, Daniel and I had tried the Arran. What is it? Which one did you
Robbie
have?
Burns.
Yeah.
That
was just very surprising to me.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess part of the reason why I sort of did it again was just because like if people are kind of listening and you're kind of thinking, okay, well, what's a good like daily drinker like always have on your shelf that isn't kind of gonna like freak out people who don't drink whiskey too much.
Yeah.
It's like sub $100. So like, it's not going to freak out your partner when you kind of come back with a bottle. So like, I would never say it's my favorite whiskey or the most complex whiskey or anything like that. I just think it's kind of one of those whiskeys that just ticks a lot of like nice, simple sort of boxes that like, that often when I come back from work and if I've had a stressful day, where I don't want to kind of overthink, oh, what am I going to have? I kind of know that, oh, you can't go wrong with the Arran 10.
Yeah, that's good.
Love the decision-making process.
So
awesome.
I'm pouring it.
Yeah.
And now,
sweet.
I mean, like, I don't even know why I need to ask, but Brad, what have you got? I already know what it's going to be.
I mean, I've mentioned it on the podcast very often. I'm a very, very big fan of Oban. And
surprise.
it's I just couldn't think of any other dram that would be my isolation dram than the Oban 14. I just absolutely love that. And it's like you mentioned, it's something that I find very easy to drink. And for me as well, it like holds a special place because it did really help me along my journey while I was in Scotland. It was something that my tour guide did really offer to me multiple times. So then he does have that like nice little fond memory as well. Just absolutely love Oban. Daniel, what about you? What do you got?
Yes, as I mentioned, I've got my Talisker Storm. And it is both because, I mean, I love Talisker, and Talisker 10 was the dram, as I mentioned, that I took into working from home, isolation with me. So it was, I won't say my daily drinker, but my regular drinker. And I know a lot of people, Talisker may not be as gentle or as easy to get into, or one that I wouldn't give it to someone if I didn't know how they would react to whiskey. But in that sense, I usually know that it's going to always be on my shelf then because not many other people are going to drink it. But, you know, in saying that, like, I love peated whiskeys. I feel like it's a lower peat level than what we normally prefer or get from Isla. So it does kind of satisfy that peaty craving. You know, it is one of those drams that I could go back to constantly. And I got this not too long ago, but the bottle's almost empty because it is just one that, as you said, when you're coming home and you're like, you don't want to put thought into which one do you want to try, and you don't want to sit down and have to kind of go through the process of appreciating everything that comes from a cask strength dram. It's just an easy one, sub 100, that I can sit down and enjoy.
Yeah, and mentioning Daniel saying he almost finished his, I did bottle kill my Oban 14, so that's a horrible moment. But one,
What, just now? Literally just now.
Yeah.
We had a live bottle kill.
Live bottle kill.
Live.
Gone. That moment of sadness will be followed by a moment of happiness tomorrow when I go and purchase a new bottle of Oban 14, so won't be sad for long.
Okay, another thing I was kind of a little bit curious about, and I guess this has multiple aspects, but I did notice it. You have like an Etsy page linked to your Instagram, and you have like made lamps out of your old bottles. And like, I love like finding new purposes for old bottles. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
It's something that I say we, because like it's actually an idea of my wife's as well. We haven't maybe pushed it and pursued it as much as we should have done, but it basically happened because like we obviously, you get the old yellow recycling bins, and the yellow recycling bin was like overflowing, and we kind of seemed to like have so much sort of packaging from deliveries, especially again over C word again, COVID, where buying stuff, and it just seemed like terrible, the amount of stuff that we were kind of throwing away. And there was just like a period for whatever reason where like I kind of started going, okay, well, we'll try and like not put as much in the recycling bin. But as a result, kind of the empty bottles were kind of piling up. Accumulating. And it was like, oh, well, let's kind of just fluff around and just see what we can do to repurpose them. And actually, like, I was working out in the man cave is what I call it, but where I was kind of working during sort of COVID, and the lamp that I actually had on my desk broke, and so I kind of thought, oh, I need a new lamp, and an empty bottle was like on the desk as well, and it's like, oh, well, we could just like stick a light bulb in it. And we did a little bit of research, and quite a few people like kind of getting like really, the kind of cheap sort of fairy lights and kind of sticking them in. And we've gone for a really quite expensive kind of copper and fairly antique fitting. So like it's not a cheap fitting. And I think maybe that's we may have missed the market, the market in terms of us actually making any cash out of it. But we kind of created a couple of lamps. We thought, actually, this is kind of really cool. So we thought, oh, well, let's just whack it up onto Etsy and kind of see kind of what sort of response that we get. And can I be frankly honest, in terms of sales, not a lot. But in terms of comments and followers and kind of conversation and again like kind of that community discussion, quite a lot where where there was everyone started going, you know what, I really should not be throwing away all my bottles. There must be kind of better things to kind of do them with. So like we've left the Etsy site kind of running, but my wife's been doing all sorts of things with like the bottles, like just like turning them into candles, putting bath salts in them, whatever. We're just kind of going, let's try and not throw everything out. So yeah, we've left the Etsy link on. Sure, everyone feel free to go on and buy one. But like, but to be honest, it's kind of by the by. It's just kind of trying to like be a little bit more responsible. Going to be drinking all this whiskey. Let's try and not throw it all away and just reuse it a bit more. So
yeah, I mean, it was the idea of like doing something with your old bottles that really interested me, because I've got a couple of ones that I turned into like oil pourers. Like when you buy the big like tin 5 liter, 4 liter jug of olive oil, I like add them into my old whiskey bottle because it's like easier way to pour them.
You've given me another idea. Thanks, Dan.
I remember the first time I went to your place after you'd repurposed the Talisker 10 bottle, and then you had it just on the bench, and I was just like, I walked in and I was like, why is Talisker 10 just in your kitchen? And you're like, there's oil in that.
I'm just pouring it into the dinner.
I was like, oh, okay, there's oil in that. It was just because the color of the oil, I don't know what in my mind. I was just thinking, okay, Daniel, I think you may have a problem if that's just the first thing you're reaching to when you're making dinner, but
it's for my breakfast. Okay. Another thing we were wondering is, you've talked a lot about the communities that we encounter throughout here. Like, have you been to many whiskey specific events? Like, I know since we've I guess built up our collection, which I guess happened a little bit after COVID. I know we were kind of accumulating bottles prior to it, but our collection's really amped up following COVID. We haven't really had much of an opportunity to attend many events. So just wondering if you have, how many of them have been like face-to-face? How many have been virtual? How do you find them in general?
So the live event side of things has been minimal. So like, obviously there's the I know the whiskey show in Sydney is back in May. I think it's May, face to face, and I've had a few people kind of saying, "Oh, you got to come, you got to come." The jury's out for me on whether I will go, not because like I don't want to or it's not a great event, just like it's just a boring money thing with some of the Cask projects that I've just laid down, but also because I am going to be going to Tasmanian Whisky Week, which is in August. So again, that's just, that really kind of again fits my brand profile in supporting, especially sort of Tasmania, given that's where a lot of my collaborations are. So I did the virtual Whisky Week last year. Obviously was hoping that it would be a real live thing. So yeah, so this year definitely want to get along to that. But you asked about sort of virtuals, and like I've been to hundreds would be obviously overplaying it, but like tens and tens of virtual events over the last 12 months. And I think it's been a really interesting way that the industry and distilleries and bars have like kind of pivoted to kind of keep those events going. And yes, 100% agree that you don't get quite the same kind of connection and conversation as you do if you were like in a room with 40 other people, but on the flip side though, you're getting to still have some dialogue with whiskey fans who be in Queensland or be in Perth or be in Melbourne, wherever they are. They're all across the country, and it's been easier then as well for sort of bars as well to kind of to sort of facilitate those international sort of tastings and just say, well, or we don't need to fly anyone over, we don't need to kind of do anything too sort of fancy. They just need to send us sample packs, and we can just connect people in. And so as a result of that, I've been to some amazing events run by bars and online guys like the Whiskey List or whatever, and experienced some pretty incredible whiskies and met some pretty incredible people.
Yeah, it's one of the things we found as well. Like, it has given us the opportunity to have these kind of conversations where people are so used to doing things virtually that it makes, the next meeting with someone or the next conversation with someone in a different state so much more easier to organize and facilitate, because we can do it on a Wednesday night.
Exactly. And actually, like a couple of weeks ago, it was almost a development of the virtual tasting and the in-person tasting. So the Scotch Malt Whisky Society did a virtual tasting of what they called the Vault Collection. Now, if you don't know much about the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, they kind of have certain sort of whiskies that you can kind of purchase that are the real kind of premium ones. They're the ones that are really, really hard to get. They're really either really old or from really kind of rare distilleries or whatever. There's certain reasons why they're of a real kind of premium expense. And so the whiskies they had in this virtual tasting pack, the bottles, if you were to buy a full bottle, were like ranging from $800 to $1,300, I think it was. So like the actual tasting pack was pretty expensive itself, but it was a way of tasting some incredibly rare and complex whiskies that you wouldn't have been able to do. So it was a virtual event, but because we'd kind of got out of, or were kind of out of lockdowns and whatever, the Whiskey Lords of the North kind of got together.
Yeah.
And so we were like sat in a room doing like our foursome, as it were, but like while tuning into the virtual side of things. So it was kind of really great experience to be able to interact like face to face with people, but also kind of get the the thoughts and the wisdom of people like all across the country. So I think I would like to think that virtual is here to stay in a certain sort of format that it's been a great way to to connect people and get brands out there, I think. So
yeah, 100%. And even for us, when we went to that event with the Whiskey Club, it made it that much more special. Getting to go in person and talk with more like-minded people and still sampling some great whiskey as well. So it just, I guess, really heightened how much you really enjoy that physical connection that you get with people when you're sharing different drams. And even after the event, we stayed back with a couple other guys and we kept having a couple more drinks and going off the extensive menu they had at the place. So it was just great to actually be out with people again, sharing whiskey face to face.
Absolutely. And that event was at Mjolnir, wasn't it?
Yeah, Mjolnir.
Yes. So I assume you guys were doing like whiskey luges and all that.
Yeah, there were whiskey luges.
Definitely recommend that to anybody who hasn't done a whiskey luge.
Yeah.
Oh, highly recommended.
Yeah.
But drink responsibly, of course.
Yeah, as always.
Always.
And
you know what? In a sensible way, that is actually the best thing about whiskey. I definitely started drinking a lot more responsibly as a whiskey drinker, as opposed to younger as a beer drinker or whatever. I don't want to sound like a snob or whatever, but I think that the beauty of whiskey is it's very much a drink to be appreciated.
Yeah, no, yeah, I 100% get that. Yeah. And going back to the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, for myself, I've been just umming and ahhing constantly, just thinking, oh, do I join? Do I join? Do I join? It's just, I'm so on the fence, and I'm so close to taking the leap. And
can I tell you, Brad? And a non-sales pitch.
Yeah.
Sign up.
Yeah.
And then put in the promo Whiskey in Isolation, and you get a discount.
Oh, awesome! That's probably that was probably the tipping point. That was the tipping point, and it's done. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, Matt Bailey, who's the ambassador to Scotch Malt Whisky Society. Like he knew that I was umming and ahhing, and like he was kind of badgering me on social media, and he goes, "I'll give you a discount, and I'll let everyone who follows you like have a discount as well. Just tell them to put Whiskey in Isolation in the promo code." So I went, "Oh, go on then, mate, go on." And look, I've only been in for like whatever it is, 2-3 months now, but like honestly, the whiskey is on another planet. We had a Whiskey Lords of the North last week, which was all about the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, and yeah, there's some great stuff there, and especially if you like your peated stuff, there's some very, very interesting peated offerings that they've got. So I would highly recommend.
You've got me. I'll join too.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you just tipped Daniel over the edge there.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. And another way there to smash your wallet. But again, it's a bit like the whiskey club. So joining fee, but you kind of run it like you want to run it. So like they have a selection of whiskeys like each month. And often there's such a small allocation of them that unless you're really quick, you don't get them anyway. But you basically choose what you want, and and the membership fee is basically giving you a whole load of education, so that you get magazines, you get video content, you get invites to community events and whatever. So you really do like run it how you want to run it. So if you've got no money, whatever, don't have to spend anything for until you do.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's great. Because with the Whiskey Society, what's the most recent bottle you've purchased?
from the Scotch
Yeah.
from the Scotch malt.
Yeah.
So I've got one called It's called Pudding Faced Plant.
Oh, I love
honestly,
the names.
they had the best names, but it's a single grain whiskey, and single grain is I've got a real thing for single grain at the moment. I've just kind of I had a 31-year-old Strathclyde maybe like 6 to 8 weeks ago, which I fell in love with, and so at the moment I'm just on a bit of a single grain crusade, and so the last outturn from Scotch Malt Whisky Society, they had to have this single grain, which also happens to be from Strathclyde. So I was always going to be straight on it, and it's phenomenal. It's amazing.
It was almost like they handpicked that one just for you.
Just for me. And in case you guys didn't know as well, everything from the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, it's all cask strength as well. So which I love as well.
One of the biggest draws.
Yeah, they just constantly giving us reasons to sign up now. I mean, you've already tipped me over the edge with that promo code, so that's probably happening.
Do it and tell Matt Bailey I sent you, and then maybe we can all get like a whole load of more like freebies off him.
Oh, we'll do.
We'll edit this out.
But that's what it's all about, isn't it? Sharing.
Exactly.
Oh man, that's great.
I think before we wrap up tonight, do you have a dram in words for your Arran 10?
Oh, damn, yeah. Because I didn't even know that the Arran was going to be my kind of dram.
You left it up to
it jumped up on me. But it's kind of like it's like Adam kind of pushing Eve to one side in the Garden of Eden, saying the apples are all mine.
Oh, that's good. That is very good.
And then recap for our ones for my Talisker Storm. I'm floating on a piece of driftwood after a massive sea battle, and there's like wreckage of a pirate ship, smoke in the air, burning wet wood. That's a Talisker Storm.
Okay, so for me, Oban 14, the perfect comfort dram. This is probably my favorite shirt, one that I always feel super comfortable in, and one that I keep going back to. It's just perfect for me.
Nice.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Justin. It's been a huge pleasure having you on the pod.
It's been great fun, guys.
If you're not familiar with Whisky in Isolation, like do yourself a favor and head over to Instagram and give him a follow, like right now. Like pause this pod and do that right now. It's at Whisky in Isolation. You can check out his photos, reviews, videos of like your live tastings, and links to your Etsy page, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff you've been working on. So I think that's about all we have time for tonight.
Yeah, it would be a huge help if you give us a rating. Preferably 5 stars. That would be lovely. And wherever you get your podcasts. So we would really appreciate it. And if you'd like to get into contact, you can reach us at Dram Talk Podcasts on Instagram, or email us at dramtalk.au@gmail.com. Or if you want to get in touch with Justin, at Whisky in Isolation. Now, our glasses may be empty, but we hope yours aren't. So,
if they are,
pour another dram!